It's a small world after all, and that's what we're playing today, Smallworld. It's a game of area control on this board. This is actually the 2-player board. On the flip side, there's a 3-player board, and then you actually get, I guess, a 4- and 5-player board also with the game. You're going to be playing a combination of races and these special powers that you get with them. So these were all sort of picked out prior to, I've already set them up. So we've got, these pillaging giants. We've got these flying skeletons, berserking halflings, a whole variety of them. And we're going to be able to pick from those and then use that race combo with their special powers to go out, venture forth into Smallworld and defeat their enemies. This game works best when you've got a lot of really aggressive players, I find. If you have a lot of timid players, then it tends to slow down. It also comes with a whole ton of stuff. We've got, little chits for each one of the races. You get a whole bunch of them. You got Lost Tribe chits, and then you've got different like strongholds and mountain tiles and things for terrain bonuses and whatnot. The game comes with a an insert that I found doesn't really work very well. I think it depends on the version of Smallworld that you have. What we did is we just went out and bought this kind of Plano box, and that seems to work really well for holding all those pieces. And then I got a few little boxes for these coins or victory points markers. So in Smallworld, what we'll do is first we'll show you kind of how you go about picking a race. The game starts with, the starting player rather, is the player with the pointiest ears. So that's me for today, because I'm the only person here. So as the starting player, I'm going to look at what I have before me, and I can choose any one of these 6. I can choose, and they get more expensive as they go down, but I can even choose this one, which is a pile of race and special power combos. So what will happen is, as one of them gets picked, then the other ones will move up, and you'll take the top one off the pile, and so on and so forth. So it'll these bottom ones will work their way up, which is nice because these bottom ones are more expensive than the ones at the top. So if I'm going to pick one from the top, I can do that. This one is free. This one doesn't cost anything. Pillaging Giants. So if I wanted to do that, I could just take it. If I wanted to pick these flying skeletons, because I thought, that bonus is, combination is really good and I want to use them, then I have to put one coin, one of these single victory point coins, on top of the Pillaging Giants in order to take the flying skeletons. And then likewise, if I was, going to take the berserking halflings or something further down, I'd have to keep putting coins on. So they get more expensive, and these ones up here start looking more attractive to the next player. So at this point, the next player, this is going to move up, 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 and then this one will come out. And then the next player is going to look and say, I don't know, I want to play these fortified wizards. So they're going to put a coin here, and a coin here, and then they're going to take these fortified wizards. Now, what is nice about Smallworld is that these race combos, there's a lot of different special powers and a lot of different races, so you'll see a whole variety of combinations, through the course of playing several games, and the combos tend not to come up at the same time very often because there's so many of them. So that makes for sort of an interesting gameplay experience. Okay, beginning of the game you need to determine how many of these race tokens you're going to get, and that's determined by these numbers here. So for the flying skeletons, you add up those 2 numbers and you get 11 skeleton tokens. So I've already pulled those out here. You do the same thing with your fortified wizards. they get 5 and 3, so they get 8. I've pulled them out here, as well as the fortifications that they are going to be using for their special power. They can put one of these down at the end of their turn in any of the regions that they control, and that'll get them a defensive bonus. Every player gets one of these nifty game turn cheat sheets, which is nice. It also goes into great detail in the back on all of the race powers and the special powers that those races can get. So you'll be referring to this quite a bit as you go through and pick your race and play the game. So to start with, flying skeletons are going to begin their turn. When you enter the board, you're going to do that from the edge. So you need to start around the edge. You can't enter from a water territory unless you're a seafaring race, which neither of us are. This is an empty space right here, so I'm going to enter into that space. To do that, I'll use 2 tokens. 2 is the default amount to enter any empty space. For every additional obstacle that you have in a space, like one of these lost tribes, which are seated at the beginning of the game, these are characters that you'll have to defeat in order to take over that zone. Mountains, things like fortifications from the wizards, and other players' tokens. Each one that exists in a region is going to add 1 level of difficulty, so we'll require 1 extra token to defeat that and enter that zone. So moving on with the skeletons, if I wanted to enter this zone, I would do that for 3 tokens. 2 is the default amount, plus 1 to defeat that lost tribe. And I'm in this region. Flying tokens, their special power is flying. So they can fly around the board and they don't have to attack an adjacent space like normal players do. They can also go over here and fly and enter, say, this space for 2 tokens. Because that's empty. And then they move over here into the neighboring space for 2 tokens. And let's say they want to attack in this space, which has 1 lost tribe in it. Well, I'm down to 2 tokens now, so I don't have enough tokens to naturally defeat that lost tribe. I need 1 more unit to be able to do that. I don't have it, but in my final conquest phase of the round, I have the option of rolling what's called the reinforcement die. It has blank space, 1, 2, and 3 pips on it. And these are sort of virtual temporary fortifications or reinforcements rather. So I roll it and I get blank. So no reinforcements this turn. That doesn't mean I lose these guys. It just means that I don't defeat that lost tribe. And that's the end of the conquest phase of my turn. Now, what I do is I can redeploy my troops. Basically, I can move them freely about the board, and I have these 2 that I also have to put down. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put 1 there, and I'm going to put 1 there, and that's good. So that's the end of my turn, and now it's time for the wizards to take their turn. Okay, wizards' turn. Wizards have 8 units that they can enter the board with. So we're going to start from the edge, say right over here near where the wizards' home base is. Put 2 there, and that takes over that space. Put 3 here, 1, 2, 3, to defeat that lost tribe, so that's gone. And I have 3 more. I'm going to put it right here and defeat that lost tribe, and that's gone. So I don't think I want to do any redeployment. I'm happy with my units where they are. But I do get to fortify once per turn. So I'm going to take this fortification. I'm going to say, well, I know that there's 2 skeletons down here, and my wizards are there. So I'm going to fortify these wizards. I'm going to just put a fortification down, and that acts like 1 extra unit. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These skeletons will require 4 additional units plus the 2 it normally takes, so 6 in total to take over this space from me. Now that we've done both players' turns, we get to score them. And the way that we do that, we just count up the number of regions that each player has taken control of. So skeletons have 1, 2, 3, 4. That means skeletons get 4 victory points. So 3 and a 1. And you're supposed to put these down sort of upside down in front of you so that other players can't see. They can see how many you have, but they can't really tell what value they are. The wizards have 1, 2, 3 spaces, so they get 3 victory tokens. And it's 1, 2, 3. And that's the end of the turn. So we move on to the next turn. Flying skeletons are going to recoup all but 1 of every unit in the lands that they control. Meaning I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units to deploy. And then I'm going to deploy them, again, because I'm flying, I can deploy them anywhere on the board. So I can attack these wizards where they least expect it, over here where they only have 2 units. So I'm going to do that with 2 4 units of skeletons, and that defeats the 2 wizards that are there. They're gone from the game, so they get thrown back into the box. Still have 3 units of skeletons left. I'm going to use 2 of them to take over this empty space here. And I have 1 left, which I am going to just deploy as a reinforcement over here. And that's the end of the flying skeleton's turn. Now it goes over to the fortified wizards. They pick up all of their spare units, which are 4. So they have 4 spare units that they can deploy. And let's see, gonna maybe use 3 of them and attack this 1 skeleton down here. So that skeleton is gone. And maybe try and attack this lost tribe here. So there's a lost tribe. Now I only have 1 unit to attack with, so I'm going to roll this reinforcement die, and I get 2 more. So that's like 3 units. That's good enough. That defeats that lost tribe. So I don't actually get those units. I just it's just temporary for the purpose of that battle. And now my fortified wizard has taken over that territory. End of the turn, we add up again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the skeletons, so they get 5 victory points. Find a 5 here. Okay. And how many for the wizards? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 for the wizards. So that's 3 and 4. Now it comes back to the skeleton's turn. Oh, something I haven't been doing is moving this this counter. So that's this is going to be, I think, the 4th turn. So here we are in the 4th turn, and the skeletons can pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 units of skeletons to deploy. That's not bad. And I'm going to do that by, I'm going to put 3 down here and attack this lost tribe, killing them. And I am going to put, you know what, maybe I'll just, I'll use these final 2 to reinforce 1 there and 1 there. And that's the end of their turn. Back to the wizards. Wizards Wizards now only have 2 units that they can use to deploy. They've spread themselves a little bit thin, and they've been defeated by the skeletons. So with 2 units, I don't really have much that I can do. So what I'm going to do now as the Wizards is do what's called going into decline. When you no longer have a lot of units left, like you only have a couple, to continue your march forth into Smallworld, you need to do something called going into decline. It's kind of the core mechanic of the game. It allows you to continue playing. You're just going to use a different race. So the way that you do this is flip over your player board. That goes to the black and white side. And typically your special power has nothing on the back, and it just gets discarded. In the case of these fortifications, however, the fortifications, they continue on. They will continue on through the rest of the game, even after that race has gone into decline. So that fortification that we put down, that will stay there. However, all of these wizard tokens, they're going to get flipped over to their black and white side, and only one of each will remain on the board. So they'll continue to count towards our overall victory point count at the end of the round. But there's only one unit here, so and they don't have really any special abilities other than this fortification. So the skeletons can kind of come in and beat them up pretty easily. But for now, that's the end of this turn. So 1, 2, 3, 4. The Wizards get their 4 victory points. So that's 3 and 1. And that's all that they can do this round. So they've gone into decline. Now they're just waiting for the next turn so that they can pick a new race and essentially just start over. The skeletons, for their turn, they're going to look and say, I have 4 units of skeletons to deploy. Is now a good time for the skeletons to also go in decline? Well, that's kind of part of the strategy. A lot of the time, you will find, players are going into decline roughly around the same time. But now would be maybe a good time for the skeletons to come in here and beat up on this wizard. So you use 3 units to kill him. And then maybe we'll try and attack this one wizard. We only have 1 skeleton attacking here, so I'll need to roll a reinforcement die. And I only get 1, so that's not good enough. So this unit I'll just deploy here as a reinforcement. And that's the end of the skeleton's turn. Now it goes back to the wizards, and the wizards are going to get to pick a new racial combo. Pillaging giants, there's seafaring forest humans down here, and then mounted ghouls. Again, these various combinations, you can kind of do your research on this player accessory to see what those combinations might do. I think I'm going to take these pillaging giants. That's free, and it actually gives me 2 additional victory points because people have been passing it over up until now. So, pillaging giants come out. Everything else moves up. The next combo is revealed as the Commando Orcs. So that's crazy. And pillaging giants, I have 6 and 5, so that's 11 giants. So now I have to hunt through my box of things and find the giants. And there they are. And then get out 11 of them. Alright, I got my 11 giants out. This turn, I treat it as though it was the very first turn. So I'm going to be entering again anywhere from the edge of the board. And I think I'm going to start attacking some of these single skeletons up here. So to do that, 1, 2, 3. 3 giants to attack that one. That kills that skeleton. 3 giants to attack the next one. That kills that skeleton. 3 giants to attack the next one. All these single skeletons up here. So this is kind of the downside of spreading yourself too thin. At some point, somebody's going to come in and just steamroll you. 1 skeleton here. I only have 2 giants left, but I'm going to try for it. Roll that reinforcement die, and I get nada. So I'm going to use these to reinforce some of those guys. And that's the end of my turn. Pillaging, that special ability means I get 1 victory point for every region that I conquered that wasn't empty. So I will actually get 3 additional victory points right now for having conquered these 3 regions that had skeletons in them. And then I'll get 3 more at the end of the turn. This is actually the end of the turn now, so I'll just grab 3 more. Plus, I still get the 1, 2, 3 for my previous wizards that are still in play. Even though they're in decline, they earn me some victory points, so I get those. And now it's the next turn. Skeletons only have 1, 2, 3 units. So not a lot they can do at this point. It's time for the skeletons to go into decline as well. And then this flying ability, that just goes away. So no more flying. And the skeletons are going to flip over all of their remaining units to the decline side. And now it goes back to the giant's turn. So the game just keeps going on and on like this. You're just going back and forth until eventually you get up to round 10. That's the final round. And then at the end of that round, you tally up how many victory points you have. And whoever has the most is the winner of the game. You'll probably go into decline at least in a 2-player game. You'll go into decline likely twice, possibly 3 times. Your previously declined race will go away. So you can only have 1 race in decline at any particular time. So if the giants, for example, were to say, oh, I'm going into decline as the giants, then these guys would go away. So if there were any of these wizards still out on the board, they would just get taken off. Because you can only have that 1 race in decline at any given time. That's Smallworld. It's a fun game. It's not exactly what I expected it to be when we picked it up. I expected it to have kind of a little bit more sort of meat to it, I think, than it actually did. What it ended up being is kind of a light game of area control, and you just keep doing this. You keep putting in tokens and trying to push your luck and spreading your forces thin, seeing if you can sort of pull out more regions than your opponents. Works pretty well as a 2-player game. I think it probably works best as like a 3 or 4-player game, and then you get the bigger board out as well. It is a lot of fun. Like I say, if you play aggressively, then I think you'll find it that's where you kind of get the most fun out of it. So pick up Smallworld if you haven't already. Try it out and see what you think.